War. A poem in blank verse. Ah! My blessed teacher, spare, my strength is spent. And was at best a child's. Some younger voice. Excite, whose song undisappointed hope may help to heighten, must I not refuse? Dictate. However discouraged, lo! I speak once more, and trust in thy almighty power. War, man-destroying, city-wasting war. Fell, horrid, hellish, execrable war. In rough, discordant notes I mean to curse. Not sing. Can harmony, and tuneful sounds agree with war's mad deeds, and hideous din? Willing, to others I resign the praise of pleasing, while their art its horrors paints. I seek to move abhorrence of its cause, and fears, while indignation forms the verse that should be writ with human gore, not ink, or with a dagger's point on human bones. In Mars's temples, demon god of war, killed, as in charnels. Oh! Could I recount the numbers that his flesh-devouring sword and weapons have destroyed, my breath and tongue would fail me to pronounce it, could I show their bones, on piles assembled, they would make huge mountains, scarce inferior to the Alps. Cursed be the man, that first his hands embrued in blood fraternal. That dire wretch was Cain. He first, so early, shewed, the human soul could bear to hurt its like, its second self. Which had not he, or some such wretch, essayed, could scarce have entreed human thought. But sin was the first mover, Eve's and Adam's sin slew Abel, all, whose blood has since been shed. From that dire bitter root, sprang murder, war, and all our evils, all had else been peace, and love, and joy, and everlasting health. O fall from love to war, from heaven to hell. Cursed too be he, some genuine son of Cain, whose mischievous invention hammered first rude swords and weapons, taught by whom, the rest, apt scholars all at evil, dull for good, studied, and soon improved the hellish art of hurting and destroying human race. While he most praise obtained, who most advanced the mischief, and his brethren most could hurt. Offensive and defensive arms were now their chief delight, and all their thoughts engrossed. War's murderous implements increased apace. Now the bent bow was practised to dispatch wounds unforeseen, and sudden hurt from far. Now death and enmity see speedy work were furnished, now in companies unite. The sons of Belial, bent to spoil or slay their mild and peaceful brethren. Men from men appeared not safe, unless completely clothed in steel, from head to foot, amazing change. From naked majesty to skins of beasts. And now to steel, yet horrider disguise. And monstrous. How could Adam now have known his sons? But steel itself too feeble proved to fence from human cruelty, and thirst of blood fraternal, and yet what more firm? What could they use, when steel appeared too weak? Now troop encountered troop, and hundreds fell. These, then, were counted many to be slain at once, and made a lamentable tale. Now mournful families were all in tears. For her Espis the virgin wept, her son the mother wailed, the husband's loss bemoaned, his widow, and her children, destitute and helpless, and without resource. But he then what thought the while their primitive sire, what said when he beheld his offspring warring thus in hostile crowds, ingagged with mutual rage and rancor in outrageous deeds, and bent to die, or to destroy, as if contrived by nature's will of worst antipathy? How must his love and grief have interposed between their cruel swords, and wildly cried, Sons, children, why so furious, why this rage? And thirst of blood? What madness urges you? Misrepresenting objects? They are all your brethren, your own flesh, the sons of Eve. And Adam, them, and not wild beasts, ye hurt. Them, and sweet charity, that on all sides bleeds. I thought our crime had introduced enough of death, and evil. And ye, mad, contend. Which shall increase it most, and do death's work faster and better than himself, as heard by Satan, who beholds with great delight your deeds, rejoice that man is now become to man, as fierce and sworn a foe, as he. Oh, worse than me. Unthinking I did hurt. To you, ye study malice, and can act murder propense, and glory in the deed. Little, may we suppose, did they regard their sire's reproof, who God's commands despist, and nature's voice, which manifestly spake. Them brethren, all from the famed stock derived. All of one blood and flesh, so similar, that each in each beheld another self. With plain design, that natural sympathy, and everything, should draw them to unite. Their very form, like that of doves, contrived for love and friendship, not for deeds of hate. And fitter to embrace, than hurt or kill most other creatures ready armed for fight. With horns, hoofs, claws, or teeth, or stings, or beaks. But man was naked and defenseless left. A picture sweet of perfect innocence. By the revered similitude of God impressed, and native majesty secured. All grounds of peace, all reason, thrown behind. Dire love of war, like a contagion, spread. Those, that, so lately were but spoiling bands. Now to such number rouse hosts increased, that men, in social multitudes, and cities large, seemed not secure, unless enclosed in walls. Prodigious heaps of ponderous stones were dug, and brought with labor vast, all hands unite for common safety. All, industrious, urge the necessary work, till walls were rised. Of height and thickness vast, esteemed of strength. Impregnable, insuperable by man. Their heavy gates of solid brass, so firm as not to yield to less than power divine. They now hopped fearless to enjoy their own. And sleep secure from spoilers' swords, vain, hope. The murderers, to a mighty host increased. Approach, and with close siege their walls begirt. As an half-famished troop of midnight wolves, pinched by bleak winds, and chilling rains, surround a flock of sheep, safe-fanked, secure the lambs, bleat by their mothers. They, excluded, rage to be debarred, keen hunger, and their jaws long dry from blood, to utmost fury urge. So these, prohibited access, and foiled vexation, rage, and foaming spite consume. Their cruel ire could eat them all alive. With resolute patience long they wait, and hope by famine dire to conquer, whom their swords and spears can't reach, nor idle they the while. But battering engines vast, and moving toaras, their devilish ingenuity invents. Meantime, strait penury, and dismal pine hard presses the besieged, forlorn dismay sits on their meager faces. Bread is now then gold more precious, meat obscene, a feast. Yet they endure. So dear is liberty to generous souls, than life itself more prized. Virgil. All now prepared for general fierce assault. Dreadful approaches the bloodthirsty foe. By penthouse covered, some, with hammers large and massy bars, their gates attempt to break. In vain, some shake the bounding wall with beams of mighty force and weight, in hopes to cause a breach. While these at the foundation try, others the crowded battlements approach. In wooden, tottering toares, of equal height, hoping by bridges laid to pass from thence to the near hostile wall. These ladders fix, and, covered with their shields, to death devote. With desperate valor mount, and with their hands seize on the summits. Maugre all efforts of the defendants to prevent, repel, and back precipitate with huge stones, and beams. Torrents of boiling pitch, and molten lead. Darts, arrows, spears, and swords. What dismal work! Horror stands horror-struck. Fiend Mars exults, yet wonders at his sons, and what the prize of all this desperate intrepidity? Immortal life, it cannot be on earth. The glories, and felicity of heaven, that would indeed be worth all they could risk or suffer, but, alas! Hell's only like to be the meed of such most hellish hate, such devilish cruelty, and thirst of blood. Ill would such creatures suit with heaven, the seat of peace, and love perpetual, such as they would soon convert its glories to a hell. For hard-kned clay, dominion, fame, for these, without which man may be as blessed, they this endure, and hazard horrid wounds, and death. Yea, hell, if hell there be, a fable deemed. The wall is gained, they conquer, now they mount with eager joy and haste, no more restrained. Now all is slaughter, all infuriate rage, that neither sees, nor hears, the sword devours all in its way, and spares nor sex, nor age. The hoary head, and little infant, lie weltering in blood, by whom the mother bleeds, glad to die with it, wounded most in that. If the fair virgin scapes, she scapes for worse, and shrieking begs for death, in every place. Horror, confusion, cries, and bloodshed reign. Horrid effects of wicked war. The carnage ended, and their fury tiered. Their heart reproves them not, they call themselves still men. Nor are ashamed to look at heathen. The few that scape the sword's devouring rage, more wretched still, for worse reserved, are doomed to drudge in servile works, remembering oft with daily sighs and tears, their former wealth, held vile as beasts, and like them fed and nursed. Even on the town, the victors wreak their rage, and burn its gates and palaces with fire. Now a vast heap of ruins, in its rooms, once sealed with cedar, soon wild beasts will couch, and owls and bitterns in its windows roost. Such were mankind, from old primeval time. Giants, for prowess famed, and mighty deeds, whose names and fame have perished with themselves. Indulgent heathen to these a longer space allowed, they might have life enjoyed in peace for centuries, to near 1,000 years. Yet chose in sanguinary love of war to hazard losing such a noble space. 7 times as long as human life is now. For these, and other crimes, the race of man was quite destroyed, good Noah, and his sons. Except, and earth from its pollutions dire, of every sort, by general deluge, washed. Heaven now abridged the term of mortal life, and to a handful small our days reduct. To try, if when existence was so short, they would be chary of it, but in vain. The dwindling progeny of Noah's sons, no better proved, but plundered, warred, and slew, as eagerly, as if they meant to exceed their father's sins, and hasten, by their own, the last purgation that's designed, by fire. Nimrod, the famous hunter, first began new conquests tiered, at last, of hunting beasts. He turned his cruelty to hunt mankind, as beasts regarded, odious thence to God. Oh, let me life support with morsels begged. A crippled Lazar, blotched with nauseous sores. Beheld with pity by my Maker's eye. Rather than rule the empire of the world. For crimes and cruelty, by him abhorred. When death had taught proud Nimrod, and mankind. How weak a wretch the mighty conqueror was. Belus, his son, not taught, inherited. His empire, and his cruelty and pride. By wars perpetual, sought to enlarge his sire's extensive conquests. Nor could limit set to his desires, insatiable as death. Down from victorious Belus, deified. And not esteemed a fiend, as he deserved. Time's archives with attentive care evolve. You hear of naught but war, accursed war. In act or rumor, or its dire effects. Of the abhorrent earth, with human blood. Polluted, cities fair and large, destroyed. To ruinous heaps reduct, and countries rich. To deaf arts altered. Now by prowling wolves. Possessed instead of men, whose wretched race. Cursed, sanguinary brutes, in form of men. Have quite extirpated. O scenes of grief. And horror, odious, or to sight or thought. Improving fast, this second race outvied. Antediluvian cruelty, how much did these, though dressing hideous war in pomp, to hide its foul deformity, increase its horrors dire, and multiply its woes. These barbed their dreadful arrowheads, and dipped in juices venomous, a simple wound. Too small a mischief seemed to satisfy. Their deadly malice, these invented first. Scyth chariots, as if men were grass indeed. How many horrid interments of death, and engines terrible, did these contrive? Unknown to former ages. How improve the trade of killing men, the liberal art? I should have said, for war was now an art. And none in greater credit. None esteemed fitter for such as boasted noble birth. And, as this wicked world is now become, none is more fit for such who should excel in magnanimity, as well as wealth. When war is unavoidable. I mean, in self-defense against invading foes. Then George, then Cumberland, by Heaven approved. Intrepid lead their animated troops. Then Marlborough, then 100 heroes more. Follow their glorious chief. With him resolved to live or die, yet, Genrouse, pity those they conquer, and had rather do them good. But these esteemed war glorious, though unjust. Were Satan's volunteers, and wilfully created, fought, abominable war. And chose it for their business, and delight. With these, all arts, all useful sciences. All moral excellence, man's glory, true. And only heroism, or mean, compared to the superior praise of killing man. This was heroic virtue deemed. This thought the noblest way to gain immortal fame. This, their historians celebrate, as worth divine, this, flattering poets to the skies. To Heaven itself exalt. And deify their heroes false, more fitly, by themselves. Sometimes compared to ravenous beasts of prey. Rapt, by the magic sweetness of their verse. From due reflection, men with pleasure hear of horrid wounds and death, which souls humane should with abhorrence think of, though deserved. This brutal fierceness, by a vile abuse of words, was fortitude and manhood called. As most becoming man, though his chief shame contrariant quite to true humanity. For man was in God's image made, and God is love, which therefore suits with manhood best. Oh! Had their heroes equal courage shown, protecting innocence and right from wrong, and cruel violence, in defense of truth. Oppressed, in bearing the worst ills of life. With fortitude heroic, had they, wise, rather subdued to reason sway whatever was vicious in their souls. They then had praise, in truth deserved, and well been heroes stilled. More truly, now, dire, bloody murderers, who multiply 100,000-fold. The sin of Cain, he but one brother slew. In horrid, barbarous, destructive war. In one brief day, has the voracious sword devoured 100,000 5 times told. Like the vast herds, at Shaun's solemn feasts, they fell, a pompous sacrifice to Mars. What appetite to kill! What industry unterred! What rage and fury prompted on! Let lively fancy picture in your mind how grand a spectacle such host must yield. At first, all ranged in bands, and due array, with ordered spear and shield, and burnished arms. Suppose them now encountering, what Lebrun, the horrors and confusion of the fight, can paint? O human souls! O madness dire! When did 10,000 tigers, lions, bulls, 10,000 of their species meet, and thus engage with all their fury? Men alone act thus. This is the superior fruit of reason. Savage creatures spare their kind, or but encounter single, or by hap. Bruyere. Victory gained, and slaughter glutted now. Walk o'er the field of battle, soaked with blood, as after plenteous rain, and if thy soul sustains the shocking sight, the carnage view, their maimed, and mangled corpses, horrid wounds, surprising postures, countenances grim, convulsed by rage and death, and threatening still. But if thy heart be flesh, and loves mankind, soon, with abhorrence, wilt thou turn away, and, weeping, curse abominable war. Assemble, all ye beasts, and birds of prey. Lo, what a feast the cruelty of man and war provides you. Fill yourselves, devour. But wonder, while ye feed, that men should prove more cruel, and more foolish brutes than you. Help ye to bury those whom no man will. No pitying Tobit these are like to find. But ye, however willing, are too few. Your leavings, their half-eaten carcasses, abhorred by you, at last will putrefy, and by their nauseous stench endanger more the conquerors, than living, by their arms. On yonder hill, see little Rome arise, unpromising, despist, and bold, to hope even short duration, that ere long will prove the queen of cities. Martial Rome, as if its founder were in truth the progeny of Mars, and spread its conquests o'er the earth. A race as bloody, as though all had fucked wolves, like their founder. All, like him, been doomed to raise their city on their brethren's blood. Fit omen, well by the event explained. Woe to the east, and west, and north, and south, whose sons that Rome shall sacrifice to Mars. Yet the pugnacious brood, between themselves ingagged, shall oft revenge the injured world. The Lord could strike with various plagues, but he abhorrence feels, in mercy, he could send his angels. They obey, not love the task. And pity while they strike, he could employ foul fiends for executioners, but finds yet fitter instrument, and sends a man. He loves it, and will do the odious work with pleasure, and not tire, not nauseate blood. At last, but like the leech, still thirst for more. An Alexander, Caesar, Coelican. Compared to these, a fiend would be a fool. No, ye dire pests, and butchers of mankind. The greatest conquest will be that of death. The glorious crown of the Messiah's acts. And this, by shedding his own precious blood. Without a drop of other, will be one. There, will be a victor stained all o'er. With truly glorious blood, the blood of love. Of godlike love. Not hellish rage and hate. There will ye see a hero, that all praise. Glory, and altars, will indeed deserve. For millions saved, and not destroyed, his praise. From public good, not public hurt. Will spring. Who ne'er will take away a single life. Not one make wretched. But to millions such. To myriads of such millions, by his own sore sufferings, and free offering of his life. Forfeited happiness and life restore. You, Ammon, wept, that you had but one world to conquer, he had wished more worlds to save. He, comes, long needed by a wicked world. A nobler flight of ages now begins. The promised virgin with the Prince of Peace is pregnant, this will be the golden age. Oh come, be born, sweet babe, the world's desire. In our auspicious, blessed end your wars. Ye nations, let no clarion sound disturb the slumbering infant's visions, hush, be still. And know, that he is God, who mocketh wars. To cease at will, to plowshares turn your swords. Forgotten, let your needless armor rust. And break your useless spears to feed the fire. Now the chonged lion with the ox shall feed. At the same crib, the little child shall stroke. The tiger, scorpions, cockatrices, asps. Be harmless things. Henceforth let nothing hurt. But all be peace, and innocence, and love. Sweet age. Yet such the world had always been. If sinless, such should be, now he is come. At least, we might have hoped for such a state. In his, who should be like their peaceful Lord. A people all of innocence and love. But, ah! Mankind continues still the same. And we must wait for this, till he returns. To raise us to immortal life, and bliss. More perfect than our first. Then this shall be. And more, at present sin's corruption works. So strong in all, but in his chosen few. That, oh! Instead of better, they are worse. They war like heathens, and like heathens live. Yet Christians they will be, in spite of heathen. Instead of hell. For this such saints approves. While that abhors, and utterly disowns. Far different should have been the wars of these. Their sword, the Spirit. Perfect righteousness. Their panoply divine, and faith, their shield. The cross, their banner, universal love. Their motive to subdue the world to Christ. And happiness, their aim, to bless their foes. With life eternal, not deprive of this. But these, too, lust, these, likewise, carnal arms. Assume, and all the same dire scenes ensue. Lo, spring, fair maid, in fragrant blossoms clad. And decked with flowers, preserving some remains. Of our first state in paradise, invites. Enjoy its sweets, forgetful of our cares. And misery. For mischief rather made. And horror, then enjoyment, forth they march. In arms, as if their war was with the spring. Yea, heaven itself, and its most gracious gifts. No less than with their brethren. All they mar. Relentless, till the land a deaf-art seems. That, crowned with plenty, late like Eden smilled. Subject to misery, in 10,000 shapes. Through God's just iron doom, we drop apace. Like blasted fruit. And thence should pity, help. And comfort each his neighbor, and unite. To pacify, by prayer, the wrath divine. But they, possessed by furies, multiply. Our woes innumerable, and, of their own contrivance, add as many more, and worse. Thanks to thee, hoary Father, Winter, thanks. To thy bleak winds, and rains, and frosts severe, that check awhile their thirst of human blood, and force them warmth to seek beneath the roofs of towns and cities. Yet not always thou vacation gainst us, oft they will endure thy worst, and rather die, than not destroy. And never once think to whom, O eloquent Paul, or ye stilled thunder's sons, to earth descend. And thus, with elevated voice and hands, and zeal inflamed, attempt to stop their rage. Stay, stay your hands, ye madmen, know ye not that blood is Christ's, and from his members flows? He that wounds them, wounds him. Will ye, too, kill your Lord, and use him like the murderous Jews? Throw down those horrid arms, and, chonged, embrace his brother each, and, with repentant tears, mutual forgiveness ask, or name not Christ. Not Paul himself could stop them, no, nor Christ. Unless, arrayed in glory, he should come to judge them instantly, and may he not? What if he should silence the thunderous guns and cannons, and suspend the horrid fray? How well prepared for hell, how ill for heathen, would they before his dread tribunal stand? Men, Christians, the same language, customs, laws, and country, kindred, blood, affinity. What farther ties of union can be framed? Yet will their dire propensity to war break through all these, and feel no more restraint than hornets from the spider's feeble web. The more strong bands oblige them to be friends. Worse foes they are, encounter with more rage, and with their teeth each other's flesh could tear. What shall we do to keep mankind from war, when, even religion, too, has proved its cause? Religion makes us war. The Turkish, sure. Nay, but the Christian, where, or how does that encourage war, or bid us fight for heathen? Did Jesus save us by the sword? Did he, or his, resist the powers that were? Do more than suffer patiently, and conquer so? Pull off the mask, religion's vain pretense. War, war, is thy religion, gold, thy God. Thy sacrifices, hecatombs of men. At least, of Jesus' spirit talking much. You know not what it is, but are impelled by carnal passions, all inflamed by fiends. A sword is born, a bloody sword. Strange birth. Or thus, I ween, his mother dreamed, ere Mahomet was born, or such a sword stamped on his breast, with liveliest signature, did, or else should have marked the nascent babe. A sword, indeed, to punish earth, chastise Christians, a scandal to the name, that loved the sword, and war, and bloodshed, sons of Mars. Not God's, vile Cain's disciples, and not Christ's. What havoc will it make of human race? With what effusion dire of Christian blood? Pollute the earth, and half the world o'errun. All this a despicable slave will cause. Dread smallest things, the smallest in the hand of God, and his o'erruling providence is much too strong for greatest human strength. Trillions cut off, near half the peopled globe. A deaf art made by thy unblunted edge. Sword of the Lord, now to thy sheath return. At length, and rest, how can it rest, enjoined to flay? How can it rest, when Christians war? When those, who should be sons of peace and love, unanimous, are to each other, Turks? Nor, oh, do Christians only war as much as Turks or heathens, but their wars are worse. Such, and so many instruments of death invented. One might now have hopped, that man, however bloodthirsty, would have been content, and not have fought for new ones, or, at least, that Christ's disciples, far from making new, would have destroyed the old ones. When a monk Who would have thought a monk would have supplied man's cruelty with direr arms? A monk who should have been at prayers, beseeching peace. For wretched mortals, he experienced first the hellish fury of that thunderous grain, that since, with greater ease, and more dispatch, has done war's bloody work, invention dire. And not, I think, to be outdone on earth. If even in hell new scenes of war arise, with doubled horrors, now its rage appeared. Dreadful indeed, with thunders armed, and bolts that mimic those of heaven, all patient heaven, which direct, matchless thunderbolts would else conglomerate, and drive them down to hell. To fight and thunder, there the fittest place. Oh, could thy eyes behold a modern siege, or I describe the horrors of the place. An antique siege would seem a harmless thing. 100 cannons from their hellish mouths belch fire and smoke, and level thunderbolts against the shattered walls, that at each stroke tremble. 100 pregnant bombs, the while their cursed globes, with death and mischief fraught, discharge, that drop like comets from the sky. Too little all, without the aid of hell. In mines beneath, that, like an earthquake, walls and castles, from their strong foundations throw. Hell from beneath, heaven threatens from above. Go, bomb Vesuvius, with thy devilish tubes, and let its fires, to tenfold rage inflamed, whirl red-hot, rocky fragments on thy head. And hell encounter hell, nor thus destroy women, and harmless babes, as well as men. Even those thy brethren, and the flock of Christ. Sands, tempests, rocks, and waves, are dangers few. 'Tis a small thing to fail within a foot of death, and scorn the monsters of the main, that open their prodigious jaws, like hell, and soon expect them all. But man is now the direst monster of the watery world, and makes worse perils in it than he finds. Lo, from their floating arcs, to save mankind, invented, not destroy, in fire and smoke. Enveloped, volleyed thunders they discharge, and on each other's heads hail wounds and death. What worse has the just ire of heaven denounced than fire and brimstone, storm, and thunderous bolts? All this, as if it were in scorn, they forge. By art, and, mad, anticipate their hell. Complete, if the cursed grain of one takes fire. With dire displosion, all involved in flame. Aloft they mount, with broken planks commixed. Thence, scorched, like photons, fall into the sea. The other, bored, perhaps, with many a wound, founders, and sinks apace into the deep. While, o'er their heads, the billows booming close. Thus Christians war, who should not war at all. But, as they are one body, have one soul, one spirit, breath of mutual love and peace. If Christians thus encounter, what the wars of fiends? Or, more to shame us, have they none? Should peaceful flocks of sheep, with rabid jaws, assault and tear each other, could it be more monstrous, than for Christians thus to fight? Jesus, exemplar of consummate love and meekness, Jesus, God and King of peace. Such strangers to thy spirit thou wilt hold. Strangers to thee, I fear, but where their sin to some ambitious monarch must be charged, who, as aggressor, must account for all this spilth of human, if not Christian blood. If Christians make no better use than this of their religion, sciences, and arts, what angel will convey a son of peace to some Philippine fruitful isle, unknown, to the sea-roving tribe, where, all at peace, in poor, half-naked innocence and love, the heathen taught, uncorrupted nations dwell, dove-like, and think that man can't murder man? We are the savages. The Christians, these. In love, at least, well fitted to receive the gospel's seed divine, and bring forth fruit. But, what else so secret to escape? These Christian murderers, with eager scent, hunting for gold all o'er the spacious main. When once they find us out, our peaceful minds will not avail us, spoiling, chains, or death must be our lot. While they, profane, presume to name the God of love, and talk of Christ. Though, in these sinful regions Christian love and peace secure are not to be attained. Jesus, great judge of spirits, when thy will calls mine before thee, and thy righteous voice appoints my portion, O, in mercy grant. Grant me a mansion, where will be no war. Assign my soul to some sweet land of peace. There, gracious place in station low, but blessed. Thy poet, peace's advocate, though mean in both respects, and all, but thou the will regarded. Lov'st the heart before the head. These God, man, hell-contemning warriors, sure all to one place will be consigned and doomed. There with each other to wage endless wars. To hack, and thrust, and wound, and vainly strive. To kill their foes immortal, or, by death, end their own misery. With earth's dire grain. Or worse, to thunder there, and mine, and bomb. Or are they rather doomed to live in peace and mutual love, forever? Sad estate. That may be the greater hell to them. But why despair I yet of peace on earth? Great shepherds of the nations, O be wise. At length, awake to reason's use, from dreams of vain ambition, let the hideous din of your own cannons, and exploding bombs wake you to due reflection. Ask yourselves, unprejudiced, if neither heaven nor earth can you accuse of these unchristian wars. O give us peace, compassionate the world. Compare advantages and sweets of peace with all the woes and miseries of war. And can ye not desire and love the one, the other not abhor as much as death? What your gain? Behold, your people, peeled, impoverished, curse your wars, and wicked schemes. Be truly sires, and your dear people view with all the yearnings of paternal love. How glorious is a wife and peaceful king! To make such numbers blessed, is praise indeed. View Antonine, a pagan prince, what wars! What victories will render you so great? Which of you will renew that glorious scheme a heathen prince could frame, to put an end to human wars? And peace, sweet peace, confirm between the nations, while the work endures. He shall be fame's minion in the years to come, and conquerors be admired no more. George, great in war, but to defend thy own. To help the weak, by wicked power oppressed. Not to oppress them, not for wide domain. Or fame disgraceful, monarch, good as great. Whose wisdom scorns to conquer, but for peace. Oh, may this mighty praise be also thine. Oh, may thy counsels, or thy arms succeed. And bless the groaning world with endless peace. Tremble, ye sceptred sons of the Most High. Tremble. The Lord of Lords, and King of Kings, looks down displeased, the solar splendors fade. And planets shrink with horror, chiefly earth. With wickedness, and human blood, defilled. Dearth, murrain, pestilence, await his beck. To visit men, who well deserve them all. While mercy humbly sues for longer space of patience, piety for her children pleads. Though few, O judges of the earth, appease his ire, while yet ye may, if he be wroth. What is a king? Or will the pest revere your scepters? Will your gems and diadems prove sure amulets? Or gold secure your lives? Ah, save us from the judgments that impend. Ah, save yourselves. Reflect how virtue fails. How little piety our age can boast. Will war amend our ways? Is war a school where Christ is taught, and his commands enforced? Far from it. They proceed from sin to sin, till Turks and heathens have much more of Christ. O sires, consider that your hosts make war on Christ, and on his brethren, and your own. On virtue, piety, and plenty too. Peace to all these concede, be truly great. Delight in justice, virtue, goodness, love. This is the only way to be like God.